Hey everyone, today I'm going to be demonstrating a new feature that I think is pretty neat in Simple GIS Client that's recently been added in the 10.1 release, and that is adding derived geometry fields to your attribute tables as calculated fields. So if you ever needed to get any type of measurement information, whether it's length, perimeter, area, coordinates, something like that, out of your geometry on your feature attribute table, there's now an easy way to do that in the latest release of Simple GIS Client. And what I think really makes this unique in Simple GIS is that the user gets to choose their units of measurement for these fields, whether it be feet, miles, meters, kilometers, or acres. So to begin, I have a project here. This is actually the Simple USA project that is freely available from our website. But I've opened it here and I'm zoomed into an area, and you can see that I have some city and town boundaries displayed as indicated by this area with the light yellow shading. And so what I want to demonstrate first is using a polygon feature for these measurement or these derived geometry fields. So I'm going to go to my table of contents and I'm going to scroll down to where this particular feature layer is stored at, which is at the end of my table of contents, and you can see the kind of the boundary outline indicated there on the map. And I'm going to open up my boundaries group layer, which contains several feature layers within that particular group, and one of them being the city-town boundaries feature layer, which is already selected. It's indicated by its shading, and actually if I use my view feature attribute tool and click on it, I can see that really this feature layer only contains two fields, one being the name of the city and the other one being the type, whether it's a city, town, or what have you. And if I actually go to the view attribute tool and open up the attribute table for that feature layer, I see again just those two fields for all of those features that's populated here. So to begin with, I'm going to go to my table menu and I'm going to go down to the calculated fields, and as I select this menu option, I see that I get this new dialog box that comes up called Calculated Fields Definition. And so here in the middle, this is typically where I would input a new field name if I was defining a new calculated field, and I would select a VB script function that would be providing the calculated field. But for this demonstration, what I want to pay attention to is in the bottom half of this dialog box, and I see I have this checkbox that says Add Derived Geometry Fields. If I simply check this box, since this being a polygon feature, I see that it has added two fields into my field definition. Both of them have an asterisk or kind of a star prefix indicating that this is a derived geometry field. And the first one is named Perim, which stands for perimeter, and then the last part of this field name indicates the unit of measurement, which is in meters. And that corresponds here in the lower half of this dialog box. If I look under this radio group for measurements, units for length is in meters. And then I likewise see another field called area, and its units of measurement is in square meters. But if I want this in a different unit, I simply click on the radio button, and I see now that my field name is changed to perimeter miles. And same thing on my area. If I choose the acres units of measurement, I see the field name is now changed. And now when I click apply, I see that two new fields have been added to my attribute table that match the names in that field definition. And I see now that I have these measurement values for each of these features. So in this first record, I see the perimeter is approximately 35 miles and the area is over 43,000 acres. And I can see that that's calculated for every feature or record in my attribute table or in my feature layer. And now I'm going to return to my map by locating the map data view document at the bottom of my application, locating the tab. clicking on it and brings back the map. And with the city town boundaries feature layer selected and using the view attribute tool, when I click on a town, I see that those fields show up in those feature attributes. So I can see the perimeter here for Lincoln City is 100 and almost 24 miles. And then I see the acres as well. And if I go and locate a different feature, well, actually that's the same feature. Here's one here, a smaller town, and actually I can see the measurements are indeed much smaller. The perimeter is now only about 10 miles, and a little over 1,100 acres is the area. So that is the derived geometry for a polygon feature. So essentially we're talking about perimeter and area, and that can be a very useful tool, obviously, if you were dealing with tracts of land and you wanted measurements. So if you had a feature layer with several different tracts and you wanted to see the measurements of those tracts in your attribute table, you could do that. And of course, if you were dealing with a line layer, the derived geometry would be length. And if you're dealing with point features, then your derived geometry would simply be the X and Y coordinates. So of course you wouldn't have any length or area measurements. But if I select a point feature, as I have here, and if I look at the add derived geometry fields, I see that I do have a choice for the coordinate units. So if my map data view document had a standard map projection, if I choose planar, then the X and Y coordinates would be reported out in the units of that map projection, whether that would be in meters or in feet. And if I so choose, though, if I wanted the X and Y coordinates to be in latitude, longitude, I could choose decimal degrees here, and it will report out those X and Y coordinates in decimal degrees. So if I choose that and click apply, I see that indeed I now have these new fields added in latitude, longitude. And that can be useful if in another demo that's on our website, and I encourage you to look at, is a new feature that we've also added is the ability to add attribute tables to your map document for publication. So for instance, if I had point features on my map and my map was in a let's say a standard map projection that had units of meters or feet, but I wanted to show these point features and I wanted to show the latitude, longitude coordinates for those point features on the map, this would allow me to do that. So this concludes this demonstration, but I do encourage you to check out the other video tutorial regarding adding the new map table object to your map documents for publication. And of course, I also just encourage you, if you haven't done so already, there is a fully functional 30-day free trial from our website. Just gives you a chance to download and play and try it out for yourself.